Welcome to Acorn to Oak with Penny Quayle Pierce and co-host Matthew Donachie. Within each acorn, there is the DNA that strives to be a mighty oak tree. All it needs to reach its potential for greatness is to be activated. You are the acorn. On this show, we will share with you the tools and guidance you need to grow into the person you are meant to be. And now your host, Penny Quayle Pierce and co-host Matthew Donachie.
Hi, good evening. It's Penny, and it's good to be here this evening. And the great news is Matthew's managed to break through the technology glitch that he's been having, is with me here this evening, so that's great.
Good evening, everybody. It's really looking forward to tonight. Glad I made it along. And yeah, really interesting subject tonight. So really looking forward to it.
So having that great lead-in by Matthew, the great subject tonight is actually called the Love and Light Brigade. And maybe we need to qualify that slightly before we go on and talk about it.
Yes.
Different schools of thoughts on how to describe this phenomenon. And it's basically people who think they're on a spiritual path. They would like to be on a spiritual path, but they have no idea really what it takes. And, I grew up in a family where we had a lot of the Love and Light Brigade, and they were quite religious. Excuse me. And my grandparents were missionaries in China. So my mother was born in Shanghai. And they basically were actually did a lot of good, but it exposed us to a lot of people who thought they were spiritual, thought they were churchgoers, and they would do one set of behaviour whilst they were with other people. And then when they were out in their daily life, forgot that they were, meant to be having spiritual qualities, and would treat people quite appallingly. And it's been interesting for the 30-odd years that I've been in complementary therapy and working quite deeply with people, and basically came up with this phrase, the Love and Light Brigade, because people would do the most astonishing behaviour and be very ungenerous towards other people, and then send you something and finish the comment off with, maybe an email or a letter or whatever, and they would just basically say, oh, and love and light. As if that actually made their bad behaviour better. So I know Matthew's got his take on this, but that's a little bit of my take on it. So handing over to Matthew, and let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, lots to say on this one. And just to mention, it was really interesting. Chris made a comment that what we would class as love and lighters in England, you would call fluffy bunnies in America. And I have this saying now. Before I met Penny, I didn't have any real spiritual beliefs, any understanding, if to be real honest. And it was through learning some of the scientific spirituality that I learned that there's a truth in it. But what I also learned on my journey, we've done lots of sort of well-being shows and all sorts over the years, and was that there's another side to it, and there's a very serious side which involves like a deep knowledge and a truth, and then there's, and I love the saying fluffy bunnies, there's the fluffy side of it, where if we all start talking in a certain way and start saying love and light, that magically we're going to be enlightened and empowered, whereas actually the truth is it involves a lot of commitment and a lot of sort of deep personal work. And I guess because I was on that, been very fortunate to find the deep work and what I consider to be the truth, was the amount of people that were sort of being quite damaging, and some of the talk that they used. So in Acorn to Oak, we say that healers, you can't call yourself a healer. I would only class native sort of shamans as healers, because and sort of religious avatars, because we're only healers for ourselves. And you get a lot of people over in England saying, I'm a healer, I can heal you, and all sorts of things like that. And it's pushing people in the wrong direction. And for me, one of the frustrations is I don't think they realise they're doing it, but they're actually pushing people off. And I know within Acorn to Oak we do a good process called ranting. And through one of my rants, I mentioned love and light and said that I'm not going to become enlightened by wearing tie-dye, renaming myself as Moonbeam and claiming to be a starseed. It's about deep inner work to clear the stuff around this lifetime, which we all have, the emotional baggage, to then be able to gain a big enough connection to learn more about the truth, which more often than not comes in meditation, when you can get out of self and connect with something much larger than ourselves. So for me, love and light, the meaning of that is people who talk the talk but aren't walking the walk. And the frustration for me, I think, is because people get led off in the wrong direction. As I said before, I'm just very grateful I found the work that we do within Acorn to Oak, because you feel the truth, you know the truth, and a lot of what other people out there are saying and doing is misleading. And another one we get, especially working at different shows, and anyone who knows and works within energy medicine knows that you can tune into someone and see if what they're doing is genuine. And one thing I found is I trained in Reiki sort of 8-10 years ago now, and Reiki is Reiki, it's energy. The word Reiki is just a term for energy medicine. But over in the UK, it's almost like you get every few years someone who is getting carried away with their ego, shall we say, will think that they can reinvent Reiki and it will be better, and they'll call it empowerment Reiki or unicorn Reiki or whatever it is, the term they
angelic Reiki.
Yeah, and it's like, energy is energy, man. I mean, you can't change the word and it's stronger. And if you have that view, you're in delusion. And I think that's what can be quite interesting, because when you tune into the people that are sort of quiet and they're just saying Reiki's Reiki, and whether your reference is Ki, Chi, Prana, whatever it is, it's all energy-based medicine. It all comes from the same place. It comes from the source. But yeah, it's this delusion that what they're doing is somehow better than everybody else. And the trouble with that is when you have that view, you forget the basics, and the basics is where the importance is. So that's some of my frustrations. Did you have something to say, Penny?
Yeah, I'm bouncing up and down here, ready to go.
I could feel it.
Because it is just so true. It's like my black cat is blacker than your black cat, and it's it boggles the imagination when people think that they can take something that is so universal as Reiki, put a slightly different slant to it, and then trademark it, and then say their Reiki's better than everybody else's Reiki. And I shake my head in disbelief, and I just go, that's interesting. It's really quite astonishing, and obviously, very much from me. I trained as a Reiki master 30 years ago, and it's been an amazing journey, and I've had so much fun and joy and hilarity, really, on that journey. And it is really, really quite interesting how many people will introduce themselves as healers. I am a healer, I can heal you, bow down. And it's just like, for me, I just shake my head and go, that's just where they're at, right here, right now. I hope in some ways they stay in that delusion, because a wake-up call makes you have to wake up.
Yeah.
And it's really important to basically just stay real and authentic. And being real and authentic means that, you tell the absolute complete truth and go, yeah, I am a practitioner of Reiki, or I'm a practitioner of homeopathy. The energy medicine that I'm practicing has the ability to help you heal yourself. But the one thing I can't do is heal you. What I'm doing is I'm giving your own unique intelligence the ability to help heal you. So I can heal nobody. What I can do is hold the space so that you can do your own self-healing. What the tool does is what carries the magic. And that tool could be homeopathy, it could be Reiki, it could be breathwork, it could be a whole mirage of things. And, I always say that there is an art and science to everything. And the science is where the quantum physics comes in, and that's the energy component part. And the art is what practices. So that art is very unique to each individual practitioner. So you may resonate with different practitioners, but that doesn't mean that they can heal you. What they can do is help you find that own unique genius within yourself. And so when I look at the Love and Light Brigade, I suppose it's coming very much from the orthodox point of view. I was a nurse for 20 odd years. I worked in intensive cares and with trauma. And when people come up with outrageous statements it's like, for me, I'll just look at it and go, okay, prove it that you can do that. And, you know, and I would say that 80% of the time, I look at it and go, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. What is amazing is there's 20% of people out there who are not the Love and Light Brigade, and they are authentically out there to help people empower themselves. And, you know, it's wonderful to see people like that and, you know, get together with like-minded people who basically don't take themselves too seriously. You know, again, there's all sorts of different phenomenons, you know, in the spiritual world now, where people, as I was saying, you know, my black cat's better than your black cat, or I've been on this path for 40 or 50 years, and you look at them and tune in energetically and go, and you haven't done any inner work in that 40 years. So it doesn't matter how many years somebody says they've been doing something, unless they're authentically real, that doesn't mean that they've even managed to get out of their office door, let alone walk down the street. So, you know, as Matthew was beginning to talk about, it takes enormous amounts of commitment to self to progress on a spiritual path and seriously have, you know, as I said, a real healthy sense of humour about yourself. And it takes a lot of ego training, because as soon as things, you know, one of the reasons that I came up with the idea of Acorn to Oak was because Acorn to Oak, the symbology of Acorn to Oak meant so much to me. I didn't call it the Penny Quayle Show. I don't have a website which is pennyquailpierce.co.uk. It's not about me. It's about the team of people who work together, blending their genius to come up with some globe-shocking things. So it's real important to realise that as soon as ego gets hold of something and decides to run amok, that's when you're, you know, that is like acid to the soul. So handing back over to Matthew, I've been ranting again. Oh, we're heading for a break.
Just in time.
We'll see you on the other side of a break.
Conscious connection to a more mindful world. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
We are talking about your life. Ever wonder, is this as good as it gets? No, it could be so much better. At Acorn to Oak, we know you are seeking more happiness, joy, unconditional love, financial freedom, passion, and purpose. Find your unique mojo and live an extraordinary life. Want to know more? Contact us at our website, acorntooak.org.uk.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
So we're back. So I was just about to hand over to Matthew so that he could have his little rant about the Love and Light Brigade. So handing over to Matthew.
Yeah, and I mean, the most recent experience I had, which was the complete opposite of what I thought. I went to a networking meeting, and from the blurb that I saw online, I thought, oh no, this is going to be love and light. And then I thought, well, I'll go anyway, because if anything, if nothing else, it will be entertaining. So I got up and did my talk and introduced myself and all that sort of thing. And then at the end of the talk, someone mentioned, oh, it's really nice to hear that from someone that's not love and light. And you'll have to excuse my French on this one, but my comeback was, I'm more shit and grit than love and light, because that is very much where I come from. It's about getting in and dealing with the stuff you have to deal with. It's very much about telling the absolute complete truth to self and digging into the work and doing it, rather than just thinking it'll go away, or thinking that you can just change something and everything will magically change with you. You may get some slight changes, but very much it's about dealing with the real heavy stuff that we've all had to go through in our lives. Nobody's had the perfect life, so to think that nobody's got any work to do and we can just imagine being enlightened, it's not the way there. I know there's a very good quote by Karl Jung, but I'll allow Penny to share that with me, because I don't know it word by word, and I know Penny does.
It's because it's one of my favourite quotes. It's and Karl Jung basically states quite plainly that all it would take to manifest heaven on earth would be for everybody to own their own shadow. And when we're talking about shadow, it's and this is again, tongue-in-cheek, talking about the Love and Light Brigade, but they think their shit doesn't smell.
Yeah.
They think they can get away with behaviour. I have obviously different ways of describing this behaviour, but it's like dropping bits of battery acid as they walk. They may wear the tie-dyes, and please don't get me wrong, I love tie-dyes myself, and I wear them on occasions. But it's the behaviour is basically they have so much spite and anger and unresolved negative emotions within themselves that they just deposit it as they walk. And I live in a town which is an interesting town. It's by the sea, so it's quite famous for being retired people being here. And it's amazing when I look at some of the retired people, and they think they've got to an age in life where they can actually take their spite out on other people. And it's really important to realise they haven't had the ability to do some of the work that we've done, and they don't claim to be spiritual. So you can let them off a little bit. But when someone claims that they're spiritual and they've been on a spiritual path for 20 years, or I know all about the chakras and I know how energy works, and they've got no energy control whatsoever, no personal energy control. And they're putting out one-liners left, right and centre. And when I talk about a one-liner, I'm talking about something that basically is quite powerful. Someone turning around, and I'll give you an example, and they'll turn around and say, "Oh, I see you've had your hair done. It's a pity they didn't quite get the cut right." Now that's a one-liner. Or trying to, what also one-liners are about making yourself the spiritual authority and making the other person feel really quite inadequate. I was a classic one-liner before I started on my own spiritual path. I was born in Liverpool, and Liverpool is in England, Liverpool is the home of humour, or sarcastic humour. So I was very, very good at them until I learned and saw some of my behaviour and realised how damaging it was. And then I started to clean up my act and refused to do another one-liner. It's not nice behaviour. It's not nice when you make yourself big at somebody else's expense. But an awful lot of people will do that type of behaviour. And I'm not saying it's just behaviour that the Love and Light Brigade do, because that's not true. It's rife within our society today. But what it takes to take people from being the Love and Light Brigade into a real spiritual warrior is being authentically real and spiritually authentic. And, some of the stuff that people say, I had this real epiphany, or I had this amazing creative visualization where I went here and I saw castles, and by the way, I was Elizabeth I in my last incarnation, and all of this stuff. And I look in wonder and just go, how much, it's time to start getting real.
Yeah.
It's time to tell the absolute complete truth and say, I have no idea what my past lifetimes were about. I know about incarnation. I understand the theory of incarnation. But actually, I was much more likely to be a milkmaid in the 18th century who actually died young of childbirth than I was to be the Queen of England, or I was to be some great spiritual authority. And, one of the things for me is there is only one of us here. We are all energetically connected. And taking it even further, there's a great YouTube video which is called The Egg, and they talk about actually, the conversation they're having with God on this particular YouTube video is that it's just you and God here. Every other person on the planet is you in a former life. Boy, oh boy, wouldn't that stop all the competition, the war, the people, the lack of food on the planet? Wouldn't that stop that now if everybody got it?
Yeah.
Because we would realise that everybody else that we abuse, or we tell porcupines to, or we're not real with, we're doing it to ourselves. And you say something like that to the Love and Light Brigade, and you get a whole host of argument back.
Yeah.
Because they can't even bother to stretch their consciousness to the point where they could actually go, that's interesting. So again, handing back over to Matthew.
Yeah, no,
and let him have another crack at the coconut.
Yeah, every time I hear that, it does blow me away, because it shows like we've been given a real simple opportunity here to live life and in a good way and together, and boy oh boy have we messed it up over the years, because it's the ego gets hold of something and thinks we're greater than we actually are. And when you look at some of the patterns of human behaviour over the years, it's like we've got this amazing planet, and we've got the ocean in front of us, and we haven't discovered 80% of the ocean. But we've flown to the moon to see what's on another planet, and you think all that money spent on space travel and things like that could have been spent on feeding the hungry. And if you look at any of the sort of relevant issues for countries, it's homelessness and people going hungry. I mean, we're in fully developed countries, and we've got hungry people. Where's the sense in that? Especially when 1% of that population is eating meals at 100 quid plus for breakfast type attitude. I mean, it just boggles the mind. If we were all just a little bit more considerate, then everyone could be living an amazing lifestyle. And it's not about money, but if we were all less greedy, we would all give more things away, so everybody would have more, and everyone would sort of feel that community and that love, and it would be an amazing place. However, very much like Penny said, it's about owning our own shadows, and if everyone sort of took responsibility for that and did the work, rather than being in a world of ego and sympathy, we would actually be coming from our authentic selves and using empathy, because I think that's where a lot of love and lighters go. They go with the sympathy. So if somebody's, oh sure, we all have bad experiences in life, but very much most of the things, other than, or this is just how I feel, but other than sort of like, we can't control death. So if you have someone in your family die, obviously it's a very traumatic experience. But if you're struggling in business and nothing ever seems to work out, or you're going through the same life experience again and again and thinking, oh, why does this always happen to me? This isn't a life. Well, have you ever thought about changing the pattern? Very good quote from Einstein. It's doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And this is very much where the love and light has come from. It's sort of, they claim to be healers and that they can heal other people, but they've never considered trying to heal themselves. Because generally their ego says, well, I'm already healed. And if that was the truth, you probably wouldn't be in front of me, and you'd be enlightened. It's the whole. But if everybody took responsibility for their own shadows, very much the world would be a different place. And there's a lot of sympathy and sensitivity around these days, which you never got when I was growing up. I think some of the things we were told when we were younger are not necessarily helpful, but actually some of the attitudes we had back in the olden days, it was very healthy. Whereas now,
Matthew, I do have to stop you there and go, olden days. For heaven's sake, you're not that old. You're under 30. You're under 40.
Well, no, but do you know what I mean? You could sort of say, well, yeah, they were the good old days, because like you could say what you felt and people wouldn't get offended. It's like now.
You mean political correctness hadn't gone crazy yet?
Yeah, it is nuts really today, where people just can't are afraid to speak the truth. But yeah, something I was just very grateful for really is finding the path that I'm on. Obviously, I'm a member of the Self-Realization Fellowship, so it's Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings, and what I love about it is it's very much he will tell you what the truth is to him and his life, and anybody who's read the book will understand it is a pretty life-changing book. But what I love about it is every other sort of religious leader or spiritual leader that I've looked into has always told you their way and just in words, whereas what I loved about Paramahansa Yogananda was there's teachings, and it's like saying, this is the truth and I think it works. Here's a scientific way of proving that right or wrong. How about trying it? And that's what I loved about it, because it's almost kind of like it's proved to you along the way, and you get, like I say, you can feel the truth. A lot of sort of clients that I have got very much some love and light friends, and they sort of ask me. I get a lot of questions. Oh, what do you think about this, and what's the truth around that? And sometimes I'll consult Pennie if I don't know, but most of the time the answer to the question is that they're being misled. And it is because people don't want to do the deep emotional work because they think it's going to be some horrendous upheaval. And it's kind of, for me, it's kind of like, get real. Like, you've been through the bad experience. It can't get any worse going back to it. We would do it in a breathwork session, so it would be about going in, dealing with that specific emotion, the root cause of some of the symptoms you're feeling in your life, and you deal with it there and then. And for me, with some real deep stuff, I've had to go back 2 or 3 times, but when you crack through it and your life changes, you think, oh, well, that was all right. And I explain this to my clients. It's like, if you imagine all these shadows behind you, these skeletons in the closet that people say, these demons, they're going to seem real scary. But it is very much like, if you look at a shadow, it looks very big, tall and scary. If you turn around and look at what's causing the shadow and you realise it's a jelly baby, all of a sudden it's not so scary. And that is, for me, what it's about. It's about dealing with the shit and the grit that we all have, and doing our best to be the best version of ourselves we can be, rather than just saying it, deciding it one day. So we're just going into another break, so I look forward to talking to you on the other side.
We'll see you on the other side.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On. My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
We are talking about your life. Ever wonder, is this as good as it gets? No, it could be so much better. At Acorn to Oak, we know you are seeking more happiness, joy, unconditional love, financial freedom, passion, and purpose. Find your unique mojo and live an extraordinary life. Want to know more? Contact us at our website, acorntooak.org.uk.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter, yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
So we're back. So basically we've been talking about the Love and Light Brigade and how some of the behaviour when we think we're spiritual instead of feel that we're spiritual can drag us off and basically take us down the road of delusion and making up stories in our heads, trying to figure out, who we were in a past life, or trying to make the universe bend to our commandment instead of realizing that the universe has been around for a few thousand years, man. And it's got its structure, and we need to play within that structure and not feel that we can control others or again have any of this spiritual snobbery that, we've done this, we've done X, Y, and Z, and therefore we're more advanced than everybody else. And as soon as you realise that somebody is coming from that ilk, you just look at it and go, hang on a minute. In my experience, it's the quiet devotee that gets the cream. And when I talk about the cream, I'm talking about the amazing meditations, the spiritual authority that when they know that they're coming to manifest something, it will happen. And when they're trying, that who genuinely put their life in service to others. And you see that they have the most amazing happy lives where they have created absolute abundance, not necessarily financial abundance, but their life is so abundant and filled with joy and happiness. Now you know that person is a real spiritual warrior. But if they start complaining about how life is doing them down, their marriages don't work, they're completely always going, oh my God, my life is just not what I want it to be, then how on earth is that person not just love and light? Yeah. So these things, they will be there. And again, I have a huge clientele when they first start with me who are the Love and Light Brigade. But my job as their guide is to help them start telling the absolute complete truth to themselves. And looking, and realizing that when they think something, that doesn't make it the truth. In fact, it's usually the direct opposite.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, I am who I am. No apologies. I just am who I am. But I have spent 20 years training my ego so that it will genuinely go into service to others. And, you know, that's not ego talking about that, because obviously, you know, my co-host is Matthew. He's done a lot of work with me in the past, and, you know, he doesn't say things unless they're the truth. So hopefully you've heard that, you know, my ego is reasonably well trained, always got extra to do. And that is very much showing you that I'm a spiritual warrior, not part of the Love and Light Brigade. So Matthew, have you got anything else that you would like to say?
Yeah, you've led me very interestingly on to my next point, and that is that obviously I mentioned earlier in the show that I didn't, when I first met Penny, I didn't really have any sort of knowledge around the truth. I had certain knowledges around certain religions and obviously opinions on that, and it's through some of the thing. Penny will always highly recommend you try something, which basically means do it, but again, it's from a very good place. Penny will say, this is what I've done, this is what my opinion, go out and test it to see if it's true. And some of the things that when we first started meditating with Penny and doing meditation classes and that sort of thing, I would sit down and it would be monkey mind. And Penny would explain certain experiences you can get from meditation, obviously explaining what she was getting. And I just totally didn't get it until about a year into doing like a daily meditation practice. And I'd start feeling the feelings that Penny had mentioned before. And it was this, that's when I realised Penny is very truthful. And obviously I've done ego training with Penny, so I know it works. And it's always we've all got egos for a reason, and it's to keep us safe. But it is about training them, and very much training them like a puppy. So it's not being hard on them, and it's treating them when they do good behaviour. And that's one of the keys as to how you get your ego in check. If you imagine it to be a little puppy, if it peed on the carpet or tore your favourite cushion apart, you wouldn't drop kick it through the bifold doors. You would explain to it why it's sort of done something wrong and suggest it does something differently next time, and then it's done. You have to do things gently. Beating yourself, when you suddenly realise you have an ego, it can be like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm that inconsiderate and I'm that selfish. And it's not about us. Ego is just part of us, so it's not about it's no view on our personality. And it's just about being kind to it. So when you've done some good work and been in service for clients, it's allowing whatever it be, whether it be a chocolate bar or a night in front of a film, whatever it be, it's about sort of rewarding ego when it does well, because that's ultimately how ego responds. Because, well, yeah, of course I've done well. It would be ego's response. But it just helps to keep it in check. And sort of going back to the meditation, when I started meditating, I was told that the first thing is your posture is the most important thing. The posture will help you gain connection. The connection will help you gain the feeling and the knowing and the peace. So obviously when I started meditating, all I would get is monkey mind. Oh, this is crazy, nothing's happening. All sorts of random stuff would just go through the mind. And for me, the most important thing about meditation is the quiet and the peace and the feeling. And I've had a lot of clients come to me and they've said, oh, well, yeah, I've just seen this new person online and I've been doing their guided meditations because they've said it's the quickest way to deal with your emotional baggage. And it's kind of, for me, I just kind of, again, it was that's interesting. Because for me, obviously there's some really good visualization meditations out there, and some calming ones if you're going specific. But I've met a lot of people that will only do that. I only do guided meditations. And you think, shit, you're missing the good stuff. Because you're just getting one person talking during a meditation rather than actually gaining the peace and the feeling, the amazing feelings you get. I never quite realised when Penny would explain getting like a shudder through the body. Some might say almost like an orgasmic feeling, until I felt it. And then it was like, wow, that is amazing. So for me, meditation is about the quiet and about going inside and connecting with something else rather than connecting with something that's playing on your iPod. And like I say, don't get me wrong, I love doing a guided meditation here and there or a guided visualization. But a lot of people are saying it's a meditation, and it's not. If you're listening to somebody else guide you sort of into a visualization, that's not meditation. And that over here there is a lot of that sort of dragging people off in the wrong direction. And again, for me, what's taught me what is true is through feeling it and knowing it. And when you first start feeling the feelings and getting the knowledge, you don't know necessarily where it's coming from, but you get it after a while. And yeah, that's again what the frustrating thing can be around Love and Lighters is it's the delusion of, oh well, yes, I'm already healed and now I can go out there and heal other people with my empowered visualization meditations. And you hold your head in your hands and just think, well, I'm glad I'm having the experience I'm having, because if I was them, I'd hate to get up to the pearly gates and be stood there and told, well, you've got to go back, Moonbeam, because you got it all wrong. You spent 50 years trying to heal others when actually the message we were giving you is heal yourself. And that's another interesting thing I find doing a lot of the training with Penny is if you just stop and listen to people, they will give you their pathology on a plate. They will give you all the information you need to then guide, help and support them. And again, that's taking your own ego out of the equation and thinking you know better and just allowing yourself to listen to what they tell you. And if you do that, man, you'll be a great guide, because they will literally give it to you on a plate. And it would be something like, well, I keep having bad relationships, and, well, I'm not sure it's connected, but I had a really bad relationship with my dad when I was younger. And anyway, my third husband, and bang, there's all their pathology. They've told you that they're having their symptoms are they're having bad relationships, and every man leaves them, whatever it be. The root cause of that is that they didn't have a good relationship with their father. And if you just listen, they give you their gold, and it's our job to then give it back to them and make them realise that actually that was gold you were throwing on the floor. Whereas Love and Light,
I think for me, I'd just like to stop you there for 2 seconds, but that's the thing. Is if you listen, they give you your gold, but the most important thing is you give the gold back.
Yeah.
And I really want to underline that, because unfortunately sometimes people will just take their goals and go, look what I did. I helped that person with this. Instead of realizing that actually your job as a guide, a coach, a practitioner, because you haven't just healed them, they're healing themselves, is to give that gold back to them so that they can use it as a resource. And you don't steal gold from other people.
Yeah.
Because that's called being a thief.
Yeah. A spiritual thief.
And, you know, there's way too much of that going on. And, you know, I look at it and I go, you know, you've got some what we call little chooks who are just starting out on the path, and they're looking for safe places in order to do things. And I think it's a real shame when the Love and Light Brigade have a tendency to misdirect them.
Yeah.
And anyway, we'll be speaking again next week. I hope you can join us, and I hope you enjoyed this show. Take care.
Lovely. Take care, everybody. See you next week.